I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing this kind of story, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. We have a daughter, Emily, who's 12. To most people, things look pretty good on the surface. Lisa was the typical busy mom, always running around, managing the household and obsessing over Emily's swim team. I work a steady job, come home, do my usual routine. Honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. But I always noticed little signs that something was off, little cracks in the perfect picture she liked to present. Lisa's been acting weird lately, especially during her trips for Emily's competitions. She'd come back tense, avoiding certain questions I had, and would get defensive if I tried to talk about her whereabouts. I figured she was just stressed, maybe tired. Sometimes she gets snippy over the smallest things, snapping at me for no reason. I also noticed she was dressing differently for those trips, more revealing, more flirtatious, I guess. She's never been shy about her looks, but this was different. She'd wear these tight, low-cut tops, and once I even caught her checking herself out in the mirror more than usual. It seemed harmless at first, just her way of trying to look good, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more going on. She also started leaving her phone around more, which was unusual. Normally, she kept it locked or put it aside when she was with Emily or me. But suddenly, she'd leave it on the kitchen counter or in her purse, sometimes even forget to take it with her. Little things, yeah, but enough to make me suspicious. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the gut feeling kept gnawing at me. Then last weekend, everything changed. Emily was at her friend's house and Lisa was out on some work trip. It was supposed to be a few days away, on an official team visit. I had the house to myself, working on some stuff in the garage when I decided to finally check her phone. It wasn't about spying or mistrust, I swear. I just felt like I needed to see if there was anything I'd missed. I saw a message thread that made my stomach turn. It was from some guy named Chad, her diving coach, for Emily's team. The messages weren't outright explicit, but enough to tell me they'd been more than just coach and parent. There were texts about meeting up after practice, missing her, and looking forward to tonight. She even sent a couple of revealing photos, nothing explicit but enough to tell me they'd been intimate. My heart sank. How long has this been going on? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I kept scrolling, reading all of this stuff while my mind spun. My first instinct was disbelief. Surely this was some kind of mistake, maybe a prank. But then I saw the timestamp. It all happened during the last team trip when she was supposedly working. Now I wasn't just suspicious, I was certain. I felt sick. I kept looking through her phone, trying to find more, and I did. There were hidden photos on her social media accounts, deleted messages on her email account, evidence that she'd been sneaking around for weeks, maybe longer. She had lied to me about where she was, what she was doing. I kept asking myself how I missed all this, how I was so blind. All I ever wanted was a faithful wife who loved me and our daughter. Instead, I found this betrayal hiding behind her fake smiles and bitchy attitude. I didn't want to confront her right then. I needed to figure out what I was going to say, what I was going to do. But one thing was clear: this wasn't just a mistake or a one-time thing. It was a full-blown affair, and she had been lying to my face all along. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily? I was angry at her, but I was also devastated for Emily and for myself. I never saw this coming, and honestly, I didn't know if I'd ever be able to look at her the same way again. After spending the night tossing and turning, I finally decided I couldn't keep this bottled up anymore. I knew I had to confront Lisa, but I wasn't sure how to start or what exactly I was going to say. My stomach was in knots, and my mind kept racing through all the possible options, shouting, crying, begging her to tell the truth. But deep down, I knew that nothing good would come from just losing my temper. I had to be calm, even if I was burning inside. The next morning, I waited until she woke up. Lisa was still sleeping when I entered the bedroom. She looked so peaceful, so innocent, like she had no idea what I had discovered. As she stirred and opened her eyes, I felt a sudden wave of nausea and anger. I took a deep breath, sat down next to her, and decided I wasn't going to hold back anymore. "So Lisa," I started, voice steady but cold, I found out everything last night, about Chad, about the messages, about what you've been doing behind my back." Her eyes widened and she immediately started to lie, her tone defensive and bitchy. "Mike, it's not what you think. I was just talking to him about Emily's dives. It's not a big deal. You're overreacting." I cut her off. "Don't lie to me. I saw the pictures. I saw the messages. You've been sleeping with him, haven't you?" Her face twisted into a sneer. "Oh, please. You think I'm some kind of slut just because I talked to him. You're paranoid." I couldn't believe her. The way she was so dismissive of my feelings made me feel that much more betrayed. I knew she was good at turning things around, making herself the victim, but I'd seen enough. This wasn't some innocent mistake. It was an affair. I told her I knew everything, that I had all the proof, and that I was done playing her game. She suddenly got angry, more bitchy than ever. "You're just jealous because I look better than your sorry ass. Chad's just a guy who appreciates me, unlike you, who's too busy working all the time. Besides, it's not like I cheated on you during the competition. That's just sex and fun. You wouldn't understand." That comment hit hard. It made me realize she didn't see her actions as betrayal, that she saw it as some kind of game, a way to feel alive again. I couldn't believe how cold and calculating she'd become. She was throwing her own daughter's coach under the bus just to justify her cheating. That's when I felt the first real wave of anger. Not just sadness, not just shock, but genuine rage. How dare she manipulate everyone around her like this? I told her I'd had enough, that I was done listening to her lies. I said I was going to think about everything and I needed space. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and stormed out of the room. I sat there, staring at the wall, feeling like I'd been punched repeatedly. For years, I'd trusted her. For years, I thought we had a good marriage. And now I was faced with the brutal reality that she'd been screwing around with Emily's coach during her trips, sneaking around behind my back. The worst part, I still didn't exactly know what to do next. I was hurt, pissed off, and honestly feeling pretty helpless. I wanted to leave, to just cut her out of my life, but I also wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I was finding new reasons every minute to be angry with her. Her lies, her manipulations, her bitchy attitude when she was caught. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. And I knew that I'd have to decide soon whether this was a marriage I could salvage, or if it was time to walk away. Over the next couple of days, I couldn't keep my mind off everything. Every time I looked at Emily, I felt this crushing guilt. She's just a kid, innocent, trusting, and here I am, dealing with this mess because her mother decided to cheat during her competitions. That thought made me question everything about our life together. How long had this been going on? How many times had she lied? Did Emily ever suspect anything? I kept replaying that moment when I confronted Lisa, her dismissive attitude and her blatant lies. I needed time to process, but I also knew I couldn't just sit around and do nothing. I decided to look for more evidence just to be sure. I went through her phone again, searched her emails, checked her social media accounts. I needed to understand how deep this went. I also reached out to some of the other parents on Emily's team, trying to see if anyone had noticed anything unusual. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I also knew I wasn't going to get clarity if I didn't dig deeper myself. While doing this, Lisa started acting even more bitchy and defensive. She started throwing around accusations, calling me paranoid, saying I was ruining her reputation. She accused me of spying on her and said I was just insecure. It was exhausting hearing her spin things, trying to turn everything around on me. That's when I realized she was good at lying. She could look you in the eye and deny something even if I had proof right in front of me. One afternoon, she came home from her work trip earlier than expected. She strutted into the house with that fake smile she always wore when she was trying to hide something. She was trying to act normal, but I could see the tension in her eyes. She tried to brush past me, but I wasn't about to let her. I told her I had more questions, that I knew she'd been lying about a lot. She snapped at me. "You're overreacting, Mike. You're making it into a bigger deal than it is. I swear, I don't know what you want from me." That was the moment I realized I needed to take control. I told her I was done playing her game and that I wanted to hear the truth. No more bullshit, no more lies. She finally broke down a little, her bitchy facade cracking. She admitted she'd been flirting with Chad, that they'd been sneaking around, but she insisted it was just sex, nothing serious. She said it was shit happens, and that I should just get over it. She looked at me with these cold, bitchy eyes and dared me to be mad. I felt my blood boil. How could she be so callous? How could she throw her own honesty and integrity out the window just to have some fun? I'd never felt this kind of rage before. It was like a switch had flipped. I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I told her I was done, that I needed some time to think and that I was going to talk to a lawyer. I didn't want to stay under the same roof with someone I couldn't trust anymore. Her reaction. She rolled her eyes, scoffed, and said I was overreacting, that I was being dramatic, because I couldn't handle her being more attractive or successful than me. That comment hurt more than I expected. It wasn't just about the cheating, it was about her attitude, her bitchiness, her manipulation. She thought she was better than me, that she could just lie, cheat, and then dismiss everything like it was nothing. I realized I'd been blind for too long, that I'd been naive for staying so long. I knew I had to decide what was best for me and Emily. I couldn't let her continue to manipulate and lie her way through everything. I felt betrayed, hurt, but strangely, also relieved in some twisted way. I was finally seeing her for who she really was. Now, I just had to figure out how to move forward with my dignity intact and do what was best for my daughter. After that confrontation, I started planning my next moves carefully. I knew I couldn't just pack up and leave without gathering more evidence or having a clear plan. I spent the next few days doing everything I could to gather proof of her ongoing affair, just in case I needed it for something legal or to confront her more effectively. I didn't want to give her any chance to spin the story again or manipulate her way out of it. I also decided I needed to be prepared for the fallout. Lisa is someone who can be bitchy and manipulative when cornered. If she thought I was threatening her reputation or trying to hurt her, she'd fight dirty. I had to be smart about how I approached this. No impulsive moves, no shouting matches unless I wanted to lose control. Meanwhile, Lisa's attitude didn't improve. If anything, she became more bitchy and defiant. She would throw little jabs, make sarcastic comments about how I was accusing her of everything, and insisted I was just jealous or insecure. She kept saying things like, "You're just mad because I don't want to be some boring wife stuck at home. I want to live my life, Mike, and if that means having a little fun, so be it." It was maddening. Her sense of entitlement was off the charts. One night, I caught her on her phone again, texting someone. I didn't even have to look, her body language gave her away. She was trying to hide the screen, but I saw enough to recognize Chad's name. I was furious. I didn't want to just accuse her without proof, but I knew enough. She caught me staring, and her bitchy smirk was a clear sign she knew she'd been caught. She tried to deny it, but I wasn't falling for her bullshit anymore. That was the moment I decided enough was enough. I told her I was done with her games, that I was going to see a lawyer and start the process if she didn't come clean. She laughed, sarcastic and bitchy, and said, "Go ahead, Mike. Do what you gotta do, but you'll regret pushing me," with that condescending tone she always had when she felt superior. I felt a mix of anger and sadness. Anger because I couldn't believe she'd been so selfish, so manipulative. Sadness because I'd loved her once, and now I was facing the reality that the woman I married was just a shell, bitchy, selfish, and completely unfaithful. I never imagined I'd be in this position, having to fight for my dignity and for my daughter's future. The next day, I contacted a lawyer. That was the hardest part, admitting to myself that this might not be fixable. I didn't want to hurt Emily, but I also couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I told the lawyer everything I found, handed over the evidence, and started figuring out what my options were. Honestly, the idea of separation or divorce scared me, but I knew I couldn't stay with a wife who lied, cheated, and treated me like I was nothing. My main goal now was to protect Emily and keep her from feeling the fallout of all this. I didn't want her to grow up thinking that cheating and lying were acceptable. I was determined to do what I could to give her stability, even if it meant ending my marriage. It hurts to even think about, but I was starting to accept that this might be the best choice. I'd rather be alone than stay with someone who's so selfish and bitchy, constantly throwing accusations and lies around. The betrayal was like a knife to the gut, but at the same time, I was finally seeing the truth clearly. I learned a lot about trust, about how people can hide their real selves behind a mask, and about the importance of standing up for myself. I still don't know exactly how this will all turn out, but I do know one thing. My priority now is my daughter's well-being and making sure she grows up knowing what honesty and respect really mean. The days that followed were a blur of legal appointments, emotional exhaustion, and trying to keep life as normal as possible for Emily. I kept the details of what I discovered to myself, didn't want her to get caught up in the chaos, and honestly, I wasn't ready to explain everything to a kid that young. But I knew I had to make some hard decisions. I talked to my lawyer about the best way to handle things, how to protect my rights, how to ensure Emily's stability, and what kind of separation or custody arrangement made sense. Lisa, of course, didn't take it well. She went full bitch mode, throwing tantrums, trying to guilt-trip me and calling me paranoid or jealous. She kept saying I was just insecure because she was better than me, that I was losing my mind. She even accused me of spying on her, which was true, but she spun it like I was some kind of crazy stalker. Her attitude was so condescending and bitchy I started to wonder if she was even capable of feeling remorse or regret at all. As much as I wanted to lash out, I knew I had to keep my cool. I couldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down. Instead, I focused on the practical stuff, getting the legal paperwork in order, making arrangements for Emily's care, and trying to keep my own emotions in check. Every time I looked at her, I felt this mix of disgust and sadness. I loved her once, believed in our vows, and now I was faced with a woman who'd lied and cheated behind my back and worse, had no shame about it. One evening, Lisa showed up at my house unexpectedly. She was bitchy as ever, trying to guilt me into changing my mind, saying she'd stop cheating if I just took her back. She even threw in some tears, fake as hell, trying to manipulate me. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I didn't want to hear her lies anymore, that I'd made my decision. She stormed out, cursing, calling me a jealous, insecure bastard, and promising she'd make my life hell if I went through with divorce. That's when I realized she'd never change. Her attitude was all about control, about making everything about her. And her needs. I saw right through her bitchy, manipulative facade. I knew I couldn't keep living in this lie anymore. I felt a strange sense of relief, even if it was tinged with heartbreak. I had to do what was best for me and for Emily. In the end, I filed for divorce. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I knew it was necessary. I wanted Emily to see that honesty, respect, and loyalty mattered. I wanted to rebuild my life without her bitchy attitude and constant lies. I also made sure to keep her away from Emily as much as possible. No contact, no drama, just clean boundaries. I told myself I was doing this not just for me, but for her too. Looking back, I realize I've learned a lot from all this. Trust isn't something you should take for granted, and even the most seemingly perfect relationships can hide terrible secrets. I've learned to listen to my gut, to not ignore the small signs of trouble, and to stand up for myself when it counts. Most of all, I've learned that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. I don't regret ending it, even if it still hurts sometimes. I just hope Emily grows up knowing what a real, honest relationship looks like, something I'll do my best to teach her from now on. Now, as I sit here reflecting on everything, I realize just how much this whole experience has changed me. I used to believe in the idea of forever, in the vows we made, in the sanctity of marriage. But I've come to see that sometimes people are just different behind the mask they wear. Lisa's bitchy attitude, her manipulative lies, her blatant cheating, none of this was about love or loyalty. It was about her selfishness, her need to feel important and desired, even if it meant destroying everything we built. I've learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. I've learned that sometimes walking away is the only way to reclaim your dignity. I've also learned that the worst betrayals come not just from infidelity, but from the lies that justify it, the manipulations that try to make you feel guilty for simply discovering the truth. For me, The hardest part wasn't the divorce or the betrayal. It was watching my daughter's innocence being tested. I promised myself I'd do everything in my power to protect her, to show her what real respect and honesty look like, even if it meant going through hell in the process. I want her to grow up in a world where trust isn't just a word, but a value she learns to cherish. I've come to accept that this chapter of my life is over. The pain will fade, and someday, I hope, I'll look back and see this as a lesson, one that made me stronger, wiser, and more careful with who I give my heart to. I won't forget what Lisa did, but I won't let it define me either. I'll move forward better for having gone through this, with the hope that someday I'll find someone who respects and values me the way I deserve. So if anyone out there is going through something similar, just know you're not alone. Trust your instincts, hold onto your dignity, and don't be afraid to walk away from what's toxic. It's better to be alone than to stay in a relationship filled with lies, manipulation, and bitchiness. That's what I've learned from my own story, and I hope it serves as a reminder to anyone else facing the same heartbreak.